So you talk about the fact that the canned fish and fish meal side of the business, the key reason why you saw strong earnings coming through for the period. So if you could break the earnings down for us, particularly in light of the performance for that earnings division of the company.
Yes, good afternoon, Samantha. Yeah, we've been very fortunate in having a very strong brand in the Lucky Star brand, and this past year under review we've done a better job of supplying into that brand, and so we've seen some significant volume growth in the canned fish sector, which has contributed meaningfully to us. In addition to that, in our industrial fish sector, the fish meal business had a torrid year last year, and we spent a lot of time as a management team trying to turn that around. We were blessed with good fishing conditions this year, and so we've seen a material turnaround in our fish meal business as well.
I mean, when you see a brand like Lucky Star really catering to, I suppose, the low-income groups in South Africa, key source of protein, doing really well, does that make you think about your business model going forward and alternative products or future products that you can develop to suit the South African and African market better?
Yeah, well, the majority of our earnings comes from affordable protein. Clearly, Lucky Star, our canned fish business, accounts for close to 50% of our turnover. But in addition to that, we have a big business in the frozen horse mackerel business, which we supply into the rest of Africa. The combined effect of these, we believe that we feed at close to 4.6 million meal occasions a day. And it's all in the affordable protein space, which we think is a great space to be playing in.
I mean, another constraining factor for the business is the fact that you have quotas called Total Allowable Catch, TAC, here in South Africa. Are there any parts or any quotas that have been particularly constraining for Oceana right now?
No, we are fortunate in that all of the quotas that we target fall on the SASSI, the South African Sustainable Seafood Initiative Green List, which in conjunction with WWF, they've looked at them and they've deemed them to be sustainable. So 100% of what we harvest is on the sustainable green list. In addition to that, our canned pilchard activities, we've gone global with the procurement and supply chain of that. And so that we are sourcing product now out of fisheries in Morocco, in Mexico, in the west coast of the US and in Japan. And that has enabled us to become more of a FMCG business than particularly a fishing business, specifically around the Lucky Star canned product.
When you're talking about sustainable fishing, of course, it brings up the fact that there are concerns around, the amount of fish in the sea, if I could put it pretty bluntly. But you talk about the fact that squid industry catch levels the lowest in a decade. Does that concern you when you're seeing the fact that there's less squid in the sea? I mean, is this an issue specific to that fish, or does it extend beyond that?
Any species has a degree of volatility. Unfortunately, the squid fishery this year has been plagued by poor fishing. It is a cyclical fishery, a very volatile fishery. It's a small part of our business. It is not governed by a total allowable catch, but rather by effort control, which means they limit the number of boats that can target that species. That number of boats hasn't changed in close to a decade, and it's what is deemed to be sustainable. There isn't a major concern about that resource. It is suffering, however, from a seasonal cyclicality.
So, there was also issues obviously around the Competition Commission, well documented. You were fined 35.7 million rand. Collusion, price fixing, you have taken the hit there. Going forward, have you stamped out any collusive or price fixing behavior amongst fishing association partners? Or competitors, rather?
We certainly learned a lesson about that, and Oceana prides itself on very robust governance protocols, and it was a learning curve for us. We have taken that learning and implemented it in the organization. We've taken corrective action. We've got a very stringent training program now for all of the senior employees. But one must contextualize the vast majority of those infringements. And a lot of them happened totally transparently. It was done more out of ignorance than malice. And we've certainly learned a lesson. Ignorance is not no excuse. And we've made sure that we will not be ignorant going forward.
Yep. Let's take a look at opportunities for growth for Oceana, because you talk about the fact that you very much cater to low-income consumers with the type of product you produce, sourcing pilchards offshore, moving to that FMCG space. So what's next? I mean, what are your thoughts on the opportunities for growth for a company like yourself?
Well, we've got two avenues of growth. We've obviously got to back up the opportunity presented by the Lucky Star brand and the market it supplies, and that will enable us to look globally at expanding into that supply chain. In addition to that, we remain acquisitive in South Africa and Namibia for opportunities. We believe that there's still potential here, and we are a diversified fishing company in that we play in a number of different sectors, and we are keen to expand those sectors and possibly a foray into aquaculture. In addition to that, we have bedded down the acquisition that we announced during the course of last year, which is the Lusitania acquisition. So a combination of organic growth of the Lucky Star brand and acquisitive growth, we think we do have upside potential.
If you say, of course, that you remain acquisitive, do you have a certain kind of target in mind when it comes to spending on acquisitions? And what type of gap in your supply chain are you seeing right now for an acquisition to perfectly fit into that?
Well, our balance sheet is largely unleveraged, or totally unleveraged actually, so we do have quite a bit of capacity when it comes to acquisitive growth. As to where we would fit that, certainly, as I've indicated, around the Lucky Star business would be a good business for us, but we are also, as I indicated, big players in the protein market into Africa, and so further pelagic expansion is not off the table.